was supposed to be a birthday party.
We were just playing a game called photography. You turn off the lights and see what develops.
It was a book so scandalous, its author was almost run out of town.
Sex and violence is around all the time. Shouldn't be any surprise to anyone.
It was a story so shocking, they said it could never be filmed.
Wanna make love to me?
Oh, yes, yes.
But behind the on-screen saga of rape, incest, and forbidden love was an off-screen drama that rivaled anything Hollywood could conceive.
I'm absolutely finished. This is the end. And I want you to get out.
Sins concealed and secrets revealed.
Well, I've always been so afraid of scandal.
On Hollywood Backstories, Peyton Place.
Aren't you afraid people will think you're a little fast?
Allison, according to my philosophy, what other people think will not pay the rent. So if you're accused of being fast, you might as well run. That way you get to all the good things first.
For nearly half a century, the name Peyton Place has become synonymous with sex, sin, and scandal. But as a best-selling book, an award-winning motion picture, and a highly acclaimed television series, Peyton Place also broke new ground on the issues of freedom of speech and screen censorship. And at a time when America was caught in the artistic stranglehold of the conservative 1950s.
There were 2 abortions, 1 murder, successive rapes of a 14-year-old schoolgirl by her stepfather.
It all started in 1956 when a 32-year-old housewife named Grace-Metalious published her first novel and divulged the dirty secrets of a fictional small town in New England.
It was about a small village, and it lifted the lid from this Pandora's box of sin and presented all of the sexual goings-on in the town.
People are surprised, Grace, that a book so full of sex and violence could have been written by you, a housewife and mother of 3 children. Well, for heaven's sake, sex and violence is around all the time. Shouldn't be any surprise to anyone.
When Peyton Place hit the bookstores, it caused a panic. Critics dismissed it as tawdry, and it was even banned in several states. But the controversy only fueled the flames of the public's burning curiosity. Within a year, Peyton Place sold over 10 million copies and quickly became one of the best-selling novels of all time.
We knew it was a dirty book. For people growing up in the 50s, they still regard it fondly as the book that destroyed their innocence. And we are so grateful because it taught us about life, it taught us about sex. There were people who sewed pockets inside their jackets so they could keep their copy of Peyton Place there.
Of course, translating novels into screenplays is usually Hollywood's favorite sport, but it didn't seem that any producer had the guts to bring the torrid tale to the big screen. But one enterprising producer was anxious to take on the censors, Jerry Wald. Known as the fastest and smoothest talker ever born in Brooklyn, Wald was charming, powerful, and prolific. He also had a reputation for filming projects everyone else said were unfilmable.
He had produced From Here to Eternity, which was another very explosive, incendiary novel that was brought to the screen.
I never knew it could be like this. Nobody ever kissed me the way you do.
And I guess he knew from that experience that he'd be able to take in some fashion the Peyton Place novel and make a movie that would be acceptable to the audience and to the Hazovs.
Purchasing the story rights from Grace-Metalious for a record sum, Wald hired John Michael Hayes to transform Peyton Place into a script that would satisfy the novel's millions of readers and still get past the censors.
They paid me $125,000, but it gave them complete control. They could do anything they wanted to with the film. I had no say-so at all.
Given the fact that you have a very active censorship board looking over your shoulder and addressing this book with its wealth of abortions and seductions and murders and fornications, it really made Hayes' job Herculean. They would say, in the rape scene, the dress must not be torn. There's an embrace scene between a man and a woman that's horizontal. That must be vertical. There's a scene where the woman is undressing. She cannot be seen to be undressing.
Let's cool it off. Let's go for a swim.
Hey, but we didn't bring any bathing suits.
But in spite of the controversy and compromises, there was one area where Jerry Wald refused to budge: casting. For the role of Constance Mackenzie, Peyton Place's pivotal central character, Wald needed a star of intelligence, determination, and smoldering sexuality. Enter Lana-Turner. Throughout the late 1940s and early 50s, Turner had been the reigning queen of MGM, dazzling audiences with both her beauty and talent. But now, at 36 years old, the veteran MGM sweater girl had receded from the limelight and was hungry to re-establish herself as a top box office draw.
Lana was very believable and a good actress, and Jerry had great faith in her. Lana had a lot of excitement about her.
But convincing the former screen siren to play a sexually repressed and overprotective mother wouldn't be easy.
It was quite something for Lana to accept a role where she played a mother and wasn't the leading glamour queen that she always was.
Fortunately, signing Lana-Turner wasn't Wald's only major production coup. In February of 1957, the censorship office shocked the Hollywood community by clearing John Michael Hayes' screenplay for production, and with a surprising amount of the original story's most controversial elements and shocking scenes left intact. It was a case of perfect timing, as the crumbling studio system and a heavy influx of provocative foreign films were forcing the conservative Hayes office to rethink its policies in fear of losing their power. By clearing Peyton Place for production, the censorship board was trying to prove that it could work with the studios and still change with the times. When Hollywood Backstories returns, the stars of Peyton Place bring sizzle to the big screen, and Lana-Turner gets embroiled in a sex scandal of her own.
Well, in Peyton Place, two people talking is a conspiracy. A meeting is an assignation, and getting to know one another is a scandal.
By the summer of 1957, producer Jerry Wald had successfully guided Peyton Place past the censors and was about to bring the world's naughtiest novel to the big screen. With Lana-Turner's established star power behind the production, Wald and his director, veteran filmmaker Mark Robeson, began a search for a young, up-and-coming talent to round out the cast.
He believed you use an established star, but you surround them with new, young talent. He always believed in introducing new people.
For the past 6 months, the most sensational book in America has been the #1 bestseller, Peyton Place. It has a great cast headed by Lana-Turner, Hope Lang, Lloyd Nolan, Terry Moore, Arthur Kennedy, Russ Tamlin, and those two brilliant young newcomers, Lee Phillips and Diane-Varsi.
For the role of the rebellious Allison Mackenzie, a total unknown, Diane-Varsi was chosen from over 300 actresses.
Diane-Varsi came in and had no resume, no portfolio, and Mark said, "Well, Diane, did you read the book?" And she said, "No." And he said, "Oh, is this the kind of role you'd like to do?" And she said, "I'm not sure." And we looked at each other, and said, "Wow, this girl is like, from some other planet. I mean, not from Hollywood."
I want you to rise above Peyton Place.
It's my home and my town, and why should I want to rise above it?
Because its standards are low. Its people spend their time trying to drag each other down to their own common level.
I don't want to be perfect like you, Mother. I don't want to live in a test tube.
Production on Peyton Place began on June 3, 1957, in the seacoast village of Camden, Maine. Wald had wanted to shoot in Grace-Metalious' hometown of Gilmanton, New Hampshire, but the locals wanted nothing to do with the scandalous book or its author.
But I've had a great number of letters from all 48 states in the United States, which say, in essence, I live in Peyton Place. So this couldn't possibly be construed to mean a small town in New Hampshire. I've always thought that was very unfair. Who were the people who said this? I've always thought that it was the people with the guilty consciences.
By transforming the seething snake pit of the novel into a respectable small town, Wald found he could get far more sin past the censors.
He took a town that was really horrendous, and he made it just sort of colorful and eccentric.
In fact, his tactic worked so well that the book's most shocking subplot was allowed to remain in the film: the rape of Selina Cross by her stepfather.
In the rape scene, every take we did, he was very menacing. And they were difficult scenes to do in that way.
I started teaching you something.
Lucas! Lucas, let me go! Lucas!
Never had nothing I ever wanted. Never had a beautiful woman.
Let me up!
Selina's resulting pregnancy was also permitted to stay in the film. But that's where the conservative censors drew the line.
In the book, in Peyton Place, the town doctor performs an abortion for her, but you could not have abortion in a movie in 1956. So Selina Cross had to have a miscarriage instead.
Unofficially, this was a miscarriage. Officially, and for the records, it's an appendectomy.
That's a lie!
I removed her appendix. You understand? And if you ever tell anybody that this wasn't an appendectomy, I'll tell the whole town about you and that drug supply salesman.
Doctor, that's blackmail.
It sure is.
18-year-old David Nelson, on leave from playing himself in the classic TV series The Adventures of Ozzie and Harriet, was cast as Selina's boyfriend, Ted Carter.
Gee, Selina, I don't want to wait that long. I want to marry you now and become a lawyer, too.
I thought, gee, maybe I've got a chance here to get out of the role of David Nelson, Ricky's older brother. And by the time I got through the role, I realized what they had cast was David Nelson, Ricky Nelson's older brother, in the part.
Nothing in this world's going to stop me from coming back. I love you, Selina.
I love you, Ted.
Energetic musical star Russ Tamblyn also felt that playing the deeply disturbed Norman Page would offer a welcome departure from the dancing roles he had become known for.
You're so afraid. You've even been afraid to ask me to the graduation dance.
Oh, Allison, I want... Well, see, I'm just not asking anybody. I'll be there, but I can't ask you.
Why not?
Well, my mother.
Your mother.
With my part, Norman Page, I had this fixation with my mother.
It's just that she gets jealous of anybody at all that I spend my time with.
And in the book, she was still getting my character, me, baths, when I was like 17 and 18.
You don't have to tell me anymore, Norman.
But Tamblyn was disappointed that the film barely hinted at the incestuous nature of Norman's relationship with his mother.
Norman Page, in the book, is a rather neurotic little character, but his mom still likes to give him enemas.
Norman, come on in here.
You couldn't get an enema in a movie in 1956. I don't know why not. And Norman Page was just too creepy and too neurotic as a character to be sympathetic in a movie. So he had to be changed.
Even the town tramp, Betty Anderson, played by actress Terry Moore, underwent a moral makeover.
Want to make love to me?
Oh, yes, of course I will.
Originally a gold digger set on catching the richest boy in school, Betty instead was portrayed as a misunderstood victim of love.
Now go make love to Allison Mackenzie. Go get the girl you brought to the dance and tried with her. And the next time I go out, it will be with a man, not a papa's boy.
She was very much in love with Rodney Harrington, not because he was the richest boy, but because he was the star athlete, he was attractive, he was exciting.
I was a kind of flashy girl, I know, but Rodney liked flashy girls, so that's the way I was going to be. Funny thing is, Rodney always loved me as much as I loved him. But you taught him appearances counted more than feelings.
I was wrong. Rodney discovered it.
By the time she got to the big screen, Lana-Turner's character Constance was also somewhat sanitized, especially when it came to her relationship with Mike Rossi, the high school principal.
May I have this dance, Mrs. Mackenzie?
Well, I haven't danced for such a long time. I'm afraid I'd be terrible.
Dancing isn't something you forget.
In the book, Rossi invited Constance not to a high school dance, but to a romantic midnight swim.
In fact, in the book, the favorite line of girls who read Peyton Place in the 50s was the scene where Constance goes for a midnight swim with Mike Rossi, the virile high school principal, and he says, "Untie the top of your bathing suit. I want to feel your breasts against me when I kiss you." That's not in the movie.
Allison! Come back here immediately. Listen, Mother, if you keep this up someday, I will do what you keep accusing me of.
I wouldn't doubt it. You're just like your father about sex. In that way, you're just like him.
Don't you say things about my father. He was a wonderful man.
Wonderful.
And fine and good to you, and that's what you told me, so don't blame him for anything.
Wonderful and fine and good. That's what I told you? Well, I lied. I lied about him because I was ashamed of him. And of myself.
Well, then why did you marry him?
I didn't. And he didn't marry me because he already had a wife. He had a wife.
No.
Ironically, Constance Mackenzie's checkered past mirrored Lana-Turner's own brushes with scandal. While working on Peyton Place, Turner began living yet another secret nightmare when she learned that her handsome new lover, Johnny Steele, was actually Johnny Stompanato, the bodyguard of the notorious gangster Mickey Cohen.
I think when Lana-Turner found out that Johnny Stompanato was his real name and not John Steele, Lana was very much in love with him, but she was also frightened of him.
Stompanato soon began living up to his reputation, and when Lana tried to end their tempestuous affair, he made violent threats against her and her daughter, 14-year-old Cheryl Crane. Fortunately, the star of Peyton Place didn't allow her off-screen personal drama to interfere with her professionalism or her performance. Turner's complex portrayal of Constance Mackenzie marked the beginning of a new phase in her career.
The truth is, my daughter did bring her troubles home. And I wouldn't understand.
Well, if she did bring her problems home, did she ever tell you about...
When production wrapped in the fall of 1957, Jerry Wald was confident that he and his performers had broken new ground. But now that Peyton Place was ready for release, was America ready for Peyton Place? Hollywood and the censors were about to find out. Coming up, Peyton Place hits the big screen, and Lana-Turner's off-screen life hits the rocks. In December of 1957, Peyton Place premiered amid tremendous anticipation. Everyone, it seemed, was eager to see how much of Grace-Metalious' sordid novel could successfully be translated to the big screen.
Peyton Place. The town everyone's talking about. All the people of Peyton Place, with all their joys and sorrows, passions and compassions, are on the screen at last.
Peyton Place was really a shocker and a blockbuster. They were able to sanitize the events.
Norman, you're making me blush all over.
But grown-ups knew what was happening, and I think there was a nod and a wink, and the Hayes office knew, well, you're going to somehow manage to convey what's happening to the adult members of the audience, but the children will be protected.
They're young, happy, maybe in love. What trouble can they get into?
If you don't understand, I'm not going to explain.
The film became a box office sensation, grossing more than $11 million in the United States alone. And while critics had not been kind to the book, they raved about the movie. Even the outspoken author Grace-Metalious had kind words for the production.
I thought it was a very nice little film. It was beautifully photographed, and I think there were performances in it that were very good. I do think they could have done a lot more with the script than they did.
Peyton Place went on to earn 9 Academy Award nominations, including 1 for Best Picture. Mark Robeson, John Michael Hayes, Diane-Varsi, Hope Lang, and Russ Tamblyn were also recognized for their contributions.
It was great to be nominated. I was known for something other than just dancing, for a change.
The film also proved a triumph for Lana-Turner, who after 20 years and more than 40 pictures, finally received her very first Best Actress nomination and reclaimed her place among Hollywood's greatest stars.
John Wayne announces the actresses nominated for the Best Performance Award.
Lana-Turner, Peyton Place, and Joanne Woodward in Three Faces of Eve. Winner is...
But ironically, when the awards were handed out on Oscar night,
Joanne Woodward.
Peyton Place would receive yet another ignominious distinction. It would become the most nominated film in history to win not a single Academy Award.
You have this enormous pride of being nominated, and then when you lose, you feel like the loser of all time. You just want to kind of slink out.
Another Oscar surprise was Lana-Turner's decision to attend the ceremony with her daughter Cheryl instead of her boyfriend Johnny Stompanato. It was a move that enraged the former bodyguard. Just hours after the ceremony, he brutally attacked the former bombshell in a fit of jealous rage. A few nights later, the couple had another violent argument in Turner's Beverly Hills home. Before the evening was over, Stompanato was dead from a knife wound to the stomach, and 14-year-old Cheryl Crane was arrested for his murder.
She says, I can't believe it that like 2 nights ago I was just dancing with Russ Tamblyn, you know, and here I am sitting in a jail cell.
As her daughter faced manslaughter charges, Lana-Turner appeared in a real-life courtroom drama that echoed scenes from Peyton Place.
I said, don't ever touch me again. I'm absolutely finished. This is the end. And I want you to get out.
Ultimately, Cheryl was acquitted of the charges, but not before everything Lana had tried to cover up about her tragic affair with Stompanato was splashed all over the headlines. But despite Lana-Turner's courtroom intrigue, it was the creator of Peyton Place, Grace-Metalious, whose life took perhaps the most surprising and tragic turn.
Grace-Metalious' life really fit the arc of a bad tabloid story. She really could not cope with success and the criticism of herself, not only for her writing, but for her looks or for everything about her. She became a very, very heavy drinker. Peyton Place came out when she was 32. By the time she was 39 and a half, she had drunk herself to death.
Even after her death, Grace-Metalious faced ostracism by her hometown.
There were at least a dozen people who called, complained, carried on about having her buried in town there. And her daughter, Marcia, still talks about that with great grief and says, she was dead, who could she hurt? I'm only sorry that after her death, they had to fight still to give her the respect that she always wanted.
Ultimately, it was in Hollywood, not New England, where Grace-Metalious' fame would find refuge. Peyton Place's enormous success spawned both a sequel and a popular primetime soap opera that launched the careers of Mia Farrow and Ryan O'Neal. But perhaps the author's most lasting legacy is the role that Peyton Place played in the history of film censorship. As the 1950s concluded and the power of the Hays office declined, Peyton Place helped open the door for a new sensibility.
Each time you take a little bite out of the apple becomes smaller, and when you make a film like Peyton Place, you're weakening the system further.
Do you think that Peyton Place will be remembered?
I doubt it very much.
You don't think that 25 years from now the name Peyton Place will mean anything?
Not at all.
Thank you, Grace. Grace-Metalious.
Well, thank you for having me.